Good morning, it's 6:15 in the morning. It's Monday morning and we are off to work. Worked all weekend, although there were a couple of little jobs, but yeah, temperature's dropped a bit. Been a bit rainy, it's been unsettled of recent after quite a long spell, very warm weather. And we're getting this stuff going on the windscreen, look. It's kind of like a bit of a sign that autumn's coming, isn't it? But it's only the end of July, still got August to get through, so I'm imagining the heat will be back at some point. Right, let's get to work and see what we have to do there. Good morning guys, I have just walked into the property. It's very early in the morning, I don't want to speak too loudly, waking the customer up. They've left the back door open for me so I can get straight in here. So let's have a look. Plasterboard ceiling. We've got these little light things, which are quite good. I think they're alright, especially for the downlighters, because over time, if you keep changing the lights, especially if you've got the spring ones in there, you quite easily damage the hole and plasterboard. So having these little plastic things up there, look, reinforces it. So there we go, we've got those, and they've also got them for these as well. So they've stapled them and they've kind of mastic or siliconed them on. Of course, to plaster onto them, and obviously it is a little bit difficult. You can kind of lose these quite easily, but yeah, once they're plastered, then this just pops out and you've got perfect beaded edge to your sockets and stuff. They are a little bit of a pain to put up, I must admit. They are a little bit time consuming, making sure you get all this back behind this tiny little ridge here, and they do tend to like pull out a little bit. I've noticed a couple of times when I'm about to use them. So I would assume this is a light switch, and the door frame has been very flush to the plasterboard, and this is here, where normally it would be a hole, and then because this is here, it's kind of like it's raised the plaster out in front of the door frame. I don't think that's going to be the case here, but yeah, it does raise the plaster a little bit, and you do kind of have to dub them out a little bit. Anyway, let's move on from that. Right, what we got going on is old sand and cement background. Obviously, there's been loads of wires and stuff put in all over the place that have been nicely chased in. So we don't have to worry about any depth on them. We just need to plaster over it. I probably will. I mean, they're quite good here. I probably will. I would have thought that somebody's been at this and taken off what's loose. In the manner that it is, little bits left like that. Yeah, somebody's taking the time to actually hammer these little clasp nails in. Yeah, everything's nice and ready and neat. So what we're going to do, we have a bit of prep to be getting on with. We can scrim up, we can bead up, and we can prime the walls. There's materials that I have. Bag of bonding, bag of hardware, a load of multi-finish, tape, drop down, easy mix scrim, high-tech self-adhesive drywall tape, this tape, beads. It's all laid on for me. So let's take the window off. I think they like the door frames taped up, yes. Right, okay, it's going to be very clean. That's a bit of a pain, isn't it? So what we'll probably have to do is make this corner up, because we can't get a bead on there. So, okay, right. Let's get my working head on. Right, I'm going to tape up these windows, get some protective tape up. It looks like we don't really have to worry about the door. Then I'm going to start, then I need to prime up the walls, and then the first thing I think I'm going to do is start addressing these chasers and stuff. Okay, right, let's get on with that. Okay then, so concentrating on all these chasers and stuff that are in here first of all. Look, that's what happens if you don't go deep enough, look, with your capping. You can quite easily pop the plaster off. Anyway, so I kind of got a bit of a concoction of PVA and SBR in there, just because we've been switching between the two primers for different reasons, and as a result, it's got a little bit of both in there. So although these are concrete blocks, you can see the concrete, so they're very kind of low suction anyway, but it's not going to hurt to get this inside the chase. I mean, we're going to got to do the whole wall anyway, but primarily just for speed and stuff. I'm just going to do inside the chases for now, and then I'm going to knock up the bonding, fill up the chases, and then I'm going to prime the whole lot in after that. But there's one little thing we want to watch out for in here. Now, these chases here, look, they've been put in, and you can tell that they're going to be flush because they're cut into a flat wall, yeah? So yeah, look, they've all got to be flush, yeah? But then we got these two over here. Now, let's have a look what's happened. That looks like that used to be a wall there, so this is all new wall. So for whatever reason, look, you can see on the floor, the ceiling's been retacked, so there's no sign that that used to be a wall there, but you know, let's have a look here. So that was where the old wall was, yeah? So they've moved it back a little bit. Now, when you've got a chase such as this, where this used to be two different rooms, it's very unlikely that these two levels are going to level up very nicely at all. And they tend to be, because if there was a wall there, you tend to come out this way. So they would come out this way, so these walls would be curling around to that internal. Yeah, it's pretty good up there. It's not bad there. It's just this middle section, some reason it flies away. And it kind of comes back into line. So it's well worth. Let's come back. Let's see. Just a little bit there. Yeah, it's here is the worst point. So using such a large straight trail where you can kind of address things like that. Or it might be worth me just on this bit here that this one dives in. I might just nip this back a little bit on this prouder point, you know. Just take a hammer and chisel to it, just take the worst bit off and get it back a little bit flatter. So yeah, it's a good idea to check things like that out. So this one should be lipping out as well, see? So it does a little bit. So this is where the old wall used to be. So we need to kind of fill this out with bonding, and I'll probably use my trowel to do it. So I'll get the bonding on there, and I'll use my trowel to come off this edge. And I'll freehand this corner in and then stick a dry bead over it. Just putting some SB on. I thought, what's that going on there on that? Quite ingenious actually. So the old soil stack sticking out. Look, I've got it flush down there. Cut that little. I just have to scrim that up. What have they done? So a bit of bonding in there, I guess, directly onto the soil stack. So we've installed just the chasers up for now, and we're going to mix up. Now, like I say, I've got this old used bag of hardwood and this brand new bag of bonding coats. Bonding coat, not to be confused with bonding compound, which is for sticking plasterboard. This is the bonding coat. It's easily mistaken because the bonding compound is quite often in a bit of an orange, purpley bag as well. So yeah, do be careful with that. So they're both backing coats, gypsum undercoat plaster. Okay, so this one's for low to medium suction, and this is from medium to high suction. So they will both do the same thing. But just that if you've got big areas of wall, new thermalites or something, then you got large areas that you need to float out, then and you need to rule it off of stuff. Then you want to go for your hard wall. If you've got things like this and this, then you want to go for your bonding. Bonding's a little bit more harder than hard wall, ironically. It's a little bit more brittle, it's more sticky, and it goes off a lot quicker. So you want a quicker turnaround. If we put hard wall in there, we'll be waiting for ages for them to go off. Hard wall is easier for ruling off and things like that, for working with. Bonding's not very nice for all that. So yeah, so if you don't need a rule, basically, bonding's all right. Oh, you can rule off of it as well. They both do the same thing. It just bonding's better for this sort of stuff. Okay. Bonding. Trowel. Bonding. Hole. Bonding in hole. do it to everything else. There we go. This is what's called a paradox. A paradox is when a solution causes a problem. So look, here's the little bead that we come to with the plaster. We're probably going to have to come out in front of it. But look, you see this back edge as it come up, because they put foam in there. Obviously they've had a bit of a nightmare with it being so brittle. But look, see how the back edge, this plastic is pushing in, especially on this one, look. See how it's touching? That's going to come and grin out through the plaster. Look, it's really tight there. There's hardly, do you know what I mean? There's just no room for any error on there. This foam's pushed it out. I'm going to have to chop these off. Clean trowel off, and we'll use this ball as our guide here. Every time clean trowel, yeah? A little more gentle this way. Have a couple of goes at this so that you can get a rule and do it with a rule. I'll just show you this quickly. We only have to get a rough corner then, because the bead is going to go over the whole thing. There we go, let me show you up there. Again, you need your trowel to be clean for every swipe, because if you don't do that, I'll kind of try it again and I'll just be wiping that back on. Okay. Of course, that is exceptionally wet at the moment, so just leave it alone. If we need to, we can tidy it up a little bit more when it's set, but that's not far off what we want if we're going to get one of these drywall thin coat beads over that. The alternative would be to knock up some more of that plaster, get a wet bead over it, and the wet beads round off a little bit more. So, yeah. If you've got it in, yeah, form a little bit of a corner. That's probably the best thing to do, is then all the beads match up. Okay, so that's all the holes filled up with bonding. So I say, what's next? I reckon we'll get the beads and the springs up, and that will give this bonding time to go off, and just prior to priming up the whole of the walls as they need to be done, we'll just scrape back any protrusions off of there. Remember, we got this. Apparently it's this whole wall now that's going to be done, so fresh plasterboard. Feels a bit of a, it's got a bit of a sheen to it. It feels very like it will have no suction at all. Pull these sockets away from the wall a little bit, so yeah, there's a decent bit of meterage on that one. Okay, beads up then, let's do that. Just quickly then, beading. Tin snips, get your mark wherever you want to go. And then snip, snip each side, give it a little wiggle, and thing comes apart. As you get your beads to go up, all sorts of different ways you can do it. Stick them up, you can nail them up, you can stick them up with like all sorts of different things, like expanding foam, a bit of multi finish. I am quite often stapling them up. When I haven't run out of staples, that is. Okay, so I've got some PVA mixed up with that little bit of SBR stuff that's in there, so we got a Bostik. Somebody was telling me the Bostik grit that they do is good. Yeah, I've never had a problem with their PVA for sure. Bostik grit. I used Bondit grit the other day and it was alright. So you can see the consistency kind of get out. It's quite like a single cream. I find that's good enough. So it's strong enough to actually start killing suction, but it's also thin enough to actually get into the surfaces such as this, where it's all dusty and bone dry and porous. And then we got painted areas. There's the guys who work for the guy who works for the guy here. Nobody signed it, but there is a question for me because obviously they've heard I will be the one coming to plaster this. Smurf, what is the largest penguin species? Immediately what popped into my head was the rock hopper, but the rock hopper is the one with the funky sort of like, not Keith Moon, is it? Was it the Prodigy guy? The hair that sticks up to the side. So yeah, the biggest penguin, it's got to be the Emperor penguin. Are they having a poke at Jasper because they know him as well? So yeah, if you want to remember the guys, I haven't seen them for 4 or 5 months possibly. If you look down the playlist, it's the bunch of builder guys that were on Finch Job. If you look at any jobs down there, type in on the search, the Finch Job, plastering, that's where we were, and that's the last time I was in with these guys. So yeah, I was kind of expecting something a little bit the same. So when I heard I was coming here, I got my orders from Jasper, where I was going and who it was for. I was kind of expecting something like the same, like I say, I wasn't expecting to be left alone in a room all by myself, left to my own devices and my own thoughts. Okay, shall we go over the whole SBR PVA grit thing as if it's the first time we've ever spoken about it, just in case you are new to plastering. We are using PVA. PVA is fine indoors. It's not as harsh as SBR. SBR is a lot wetter in its neat state and you need to be careful where you get it, like if you get it on the carpet, etc. But SBR is much more efficient at killing suction, okay? So this is where we've got really high suction. This is why we're putting PVA on there to kill it. Now I've just gone around the room and I've come back to the beginning and that's pretty much dry. So when I'm PVAing, you can kind of leave a little bit of suction in there, which helps speed up the set time. So basically when you're coming around, you want that PVA or SBR staying wet on there for around 10 minutes or so, because if you put PVA on something and it dries in straight away, you haven't killed enough suction. Same as SBR really. Get another coat of it on there. So I've gone around, this side's dry on this high porous sucky stuff, and here look, it's still soaking wet on this low suction where we've got paint. So this is the problem we got with these walls in here. We've got different suction rates going off all over the place. So one thing we can do is just kill the suction of everything and try and bring it all back in line so that when you do put the plaster on there, it all goes off consistently and you haven't got a patch here that's going off on you, haven't got a patch here that's hanging around. There was a bit of SBR, so we just got a mixture of SBR and PVA in there, which won't hurt anything. But I am definitely going to be giving it a good couple of coats in here. So I'm going to go start it here, finish here, I'm going to go and PVA all this wall, then I'm going to start at the beginning again, give it 2 coats. Oh, I've got 2 little wheels with my little brush that I have just sitting on the side there waiting. Sockets, switches, all down the wall. I assume they're live in this part of the room. I'm going to get a bit of this tape because not so much on this one, they're on the side, but very often terminals are at the top. So what I tend to do, which is the minimal, get a little bit of tape so it goes over the top like that, and also comes over and catches the screws so that the screws don't get lost and they stay in there. A little bit of slack, and that's fine because the wires can't get you. It's the getting water in the actual terminals, isn't it? So that's all fine to touch. Okay, so we've been around the room one more time with PVA, and as you can see, we've got definite areas where it's still tacky. Okay, which indicates that we're starting to get a decent amount of sealing done. Okay, it's not going to be drawing the moisture out of the plaster too quick. Right, I guess it is time, because all this scrimming, PVAing, beading, all this sort of stuff does take a lot of time out of it, and we spent like over 3 hours messing around in there. So now the time is probably about right to get on with some plaster. I don't fancy a hard one. I think what we'll do is take all this board work out, at least get this ceiling, get this wall on, probably get this wall on, leaving the reveals. I'm not sure. I'll knock up a couple of bags, get these on, and have a look in the bucket, see what's left, and decide where else to go with it. I might get that little bit of boxing on as well. Who knows? Might get some reveals on, or I might just knock it back and use it as part of the second coat to speed the gauge along. So who knows? At this moment, we just always plastering is just having a general plan and then confirming things, just laying the track in front of you really. So yeah, general idea, but be ready to change your mind at a moment's notice. I think that's the building trade in general really. But yeah, okay, let's knock up some plaster and start doing that stuff now. Bang on what I wanted, a tiny little bit left over. I wasn't going to have to pick up any that boxing or anything, so I just filled a couple of nasty little holes. That was just an old TV coaxial when I took that plate off, which was handy because I broke the plate taking it off. So I've got rid of the one completely, so that wasn't going on there at all. Yeah, Right, I think we're timing it pretty well. It took pretty much 2 bags to get this all on, and I'm going to knock pretty much 1 bag because it's generally half as much as getting whatever you're knocked up to put on. 2 bags, 1 bag should lay it all down. In fact, it's quite often a little bit less, depends what you do really. As you see, I'm always going on about this 20 by 5 carbon steel trail, which is quite long and also straight as well. So what I've done is put plaster on, then I've turned back around and I've flattened in just for that. I don't use corner trails, and I don't use speed skims or anything. Not maybe in some situations I'll use speed skims. Especially if speed is the issue, you know. Anyway, I won't go into that. We have spoken about speed skims and stuff like that loads on the channel. So yeah, because I flatten in with that thing, so put it on, flatten that thing, it does get it in quite a good condition. Although we have got these rather annoying light beads, socket beads, whatever you want to call them. They do volcano out a little bit, and you have to hold your trowel flat round them. Let's see, there's a couple of little ridges there, so and there's no suction either on the actual, so you can see, look, it's bellowing where it looks. You see it's bulging through. Are they worth it? Who really likes them? Right, let's knock up this second coat and get it up there. Second coat is on, everything, and I had enough left over to pick up the face of that, which I'm probably going to sponge in. Okay, right, let's get back on it. Okay, so just demonstrating that with your wet brush, kind of opening up the trowel, getting a little bit of sludge out there, considering this is the first time we're bringing a wet brush into the situation. We can use the kind of, if you like, the fat out of it, we can use that to push that back into the wall. Only at this stage though. As we get a little bit further down, you can't use that stuff anymore because it gets too thin and it's too weak. But I'm going to just keep up with this. I'm having to keep moving. As soon as I've got to the end, it's time to start again. So the temperature's picked up. 2 bags in here, like this, is enough for me. So look, open the trowel, playing it off, closing the trowel back up, pushing that fat into the situation. So it's going to get more and more on there. When it starts getting too much, this one gets going to spray it on the side of your hawk or wash it into your set bucket. Then we can hold it flat up. Put a little bit more pressure on the back of the trowel. We're always chasing that discrepancy there. Not leaving any trowel marks. Although we are having to move fast and we're not far away from disaster as far as time is concerned, we are still in a comfortable position to keep up with all this, so I can't chat too much. Okay, here's the cheat here. Using a sponge float. Look at it. It's a fine sponge. It's not as coarse as some of the ones that you get for sand cements, and I find these ideal for cheating with multi-finish. So if we look at the state there as it is at the moment, and like I say, I'm having to move fast because we're kind of losing it, and what we're doing, we're using the sponge float, plenty of water, and it's doing 2 things. It's livening up that very surface, and it's also buffing out that surface as well, taking out ripples, filling holes, etc. It's kind of like putting 2 coats on. What we're mixing and knocking back the second coat whilst it's on the wall, not in the bucket. I'm only doing it on the face of this, just to bring it in line with the rest of the set at the bottom. And it's a small area, so I can give it the attention it needs. So again, we're getting this. And pushing that back into the wall. Last thing I'm going to do, if you're leaving this stuff too long before you get back on it and you won't be able to get the ripples out, let's just scrape it. The other thing you have to be careful with when you're filling it up a bead, it's really easy to wash it out into the bead, you know, and the bead starts curling around, so you need to make sure you get all those and put it back up. There we go, that's under control. Right, let's start again. I think what I'm going to do now is switch down to my Rafina Flex 2 stainless steel 16-inch. Use this other than at 20, because at 20 is a little bit hard on your shoulders and everything. Plus this gives it, closes the surface in, so that bigger trout's dealt with a lot of flatness, making sure everything's all straight and stuff. And that is why now I can drop down to something that's flexible like this, okay? And it's a softer metal. And so the reason being as well, so we're getting that plaster flat whilst it's in its wet state, when it's easy, okay? Using that big trout, getting it really flat, really early on in its age. And that's what's allowing me to be able to drop down to this, confidently knowing that the ripples are out. Because if you try putting on this, it will leave ripples and follow contours all over the place. That's why you need to really use it in combination. It's more like it's a finishing trout, but it's a finishing trout. It's the last couple of times you're going to visit the wall. You've got to have cleaned all those ripples and all that stuff out before you can come and start sheening up the surface everybody likes to see. I would just treat it in exactly the same manner, in a systematic way as the ceiling went on. It's the same thing again, opening the trout up and then closing it in, or opening it up and push there and then closing it back in on the pull. Notice I'm not using the corner trowel tool, I'm always using these smaller wet brushes that taper out at the end, although this one's starting to get a little bit old now. I'm getting a residue out there which is no good for anything anymore, it's too thin. So we'll get rid of that. So this small wet brush delivers just the right amount of water and it makes a really good job of tidying up these internals at the same time. I don't need an extra cooling trowel. Working our way along. Guys were there then. It's 5 minutes past 2 in the afternoon. I feel it's a bit too early to leave, pushing there's more stuff to be done, but it's too late in the day to find another set one, and I've got pretty much all the prep done, so what am I going to do? First of all, what we're going to do is climb these lights, smart them up. You should be able to see. There's got to be one there. Ah, there it is. They are a little bit easy to use, as you can see. One there. There's got to be one here. One right here. Yes. There it is. Hey. I'll be definitely see that one. See that one. See that one. We got one. Right, what else are we going to do? I might first. So what? I'm going to clean these beads off, just have a general tidy up. And the only other thing I noticed here, look, is some of these sockets. I'm not sure if I showed it earlier. Look, these backs are splaying out in front of this edge. This is where your plaster comes to. Look, it's catching that. Same as this one here, look at it, it's catching it at the back. That's going to be, when you start trying to plaster that, that's going to keep grinning through. Yeah, so there's just not enough in it, is there? And over there. Oh, so what's happened is, look, they've screwed them in. So they're obviously, the back boxes are in as usual, and they've actually put the screws in there, which is probably quite a good idea, because that means that this is in the absolutely perfect position. But I think screwing them in has kind of pulled them in. And look, they've put foam, foam in behind them, which hasn't helped with pushing them out. I'm going to get my multi-tool and trim the worst of these ones off. What? It's my multi-tool. If you've not seen one before, look, this is how the blade goes in and out. You pull this. You get all sorts of different blades, and they come, they've got this shape to them, so you can angle it any way you want. Just put it in there like that, and you can have it angled this way, blah, 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 blah. So all sorts of different blades, and as you can see, it oscillates, is that the right word? Is it an oscillating tool? Basically it just vibrates, and I've got this little blade here, and that is what we're going to use. To have them off. Very noisy little things, not the best thing to get out first thing in the morning. Okay, that's we've been in there, had these corners off, had that whole side, corners, been round and done that to anything that offended my gaze. Right, I spent a little bit of time, there's nothing really I can get on with today. Not unless I want to be staying till 6 o'clock at night, and I've got tomorrow in here, so I think that'll be it. My lovely wife has Mondays off, so I'm going to go home and spend some time with her and the grandson, because she looks after our grandson on Mondays. So let's go and do that. He's one, by the way, and he's at the point where it's got to watch out. It's upstairs, climbing around, crawling around all over the place. Very inquisitive. A 1-year-old in the house. Been quite a while for me. Last time I had a 1-year-old in the house was 18 years ago. Right, let's get back and see how they're getting on. Right. What we haven't done anything about nature for a while, have we? I used to like doing a little bit of nature every now and again. Remember the Death Star series and that, where we're staying in Oxford? We've seen rabbits and stuff and deer. Let's have a look what we got going on there. Look. It's lavender, right? Bees love a bit of lavender, don't they? Absolutely all over it they are. And in this little garden I've got it going all the way around the edge. Bees everywhere. And also they've got some nice young trees, look. And there's some lovely old plums on it. I wonder if that's new this year. I mean, it's a very young tree. Apples. I'm not sure what that is. So we've got some more fruit trees over here. More apples. Does it look like an apple? Looks like an apple, doesn't it? More lavender. Bees everywhere. Just something else we haven't covered for a while. We haven't covered any Greek mythology, have we? And so looking at those bees, it reminds me of the story of
Zeus and Hera, for some reason, I can't remember exactly why, but they used to like inviting mortals up and stuff with offerings of food, have like a banquet sort of thing, and then Zeus and Hera would be the judges to find and award somebody a wish, a gift, whatever they wanted, or at least ask of the gods whatever they wanted. They was allowed to ask of the gods. So they had this thing going on, and they was eating stuff and everything. And this little creature, I can't remember what her name was. It wasn't Mephis, it was something. I can't remember what the bee's name was, but yeah, she was a bee. And she came in and she gave the honey to Zeus to drink, and he'd never tasted it before. And he was absolutely amazed, and so was Hera, his wife. And they said it was incredible, and it was to be made the food of the gods, and it was called amber nectar, I believe. That's what the old Australians forex, the amber nectar, mate. I believe it was called amber. And then what was her name? I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. Anyway, it was a female bee, and she said, he said, what are you asking? And she said, well, I want a weapon, because what happens is it takes me such a long time to make the honey, the amber, and the bear steals it, then this steals it, people steal it all the time, and I can't defend it, so I want a weapon that's like painful, and like I can. And so Zeus said, and he wasn't that impressed with her, and he said, well, it's what a nasty thing, because it was, Zeus. It was a bit of a character. I always think of him as a bit of a Sid James from the Carry On films, old Zeus. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Sid James from the Carry On films. I think he should have played Zeus at some point. So anyway, he had a right go at the bee, whatever her name was. Her name that won't be mentioned, her name that won't be remembered. And he said, I'll give you your gift, but if you ever use it, it means instant death for you. And obviously that's what happens if a bee stings you. It has barbs on the end of it, and the sting stays in with the little pumpy sac. And if the bee if it stings you and then tries to fly off, then it tears all of its own insides out. So it can only be used in a suicide mission. So yeah, that's a little Greek mythology story about bees and where they got their sting from. Whereas the wasp doesn't make anything and he gets a sting, so we don't know what he was thinking with that one. Right, I'll see you in the morning.
Good morning guys, it's 6:30 and the customer has been very gracious in this early morning. Right, so what have we got left? This wall, these rooms, these walls, and we've got this scrapy wall in here. Now, first thing I'm going to do is, if you remember yesterday, I filled these up. I'm going to get this all bit of a scrape and take back any protrusions, and then because there's going to be more suction in these, because these were done after we primed everything up. So I'm going to prime up the holes again. And here, look, I filled with a bit of leftover multi-finish. You can see the suction's really high, so we've got really high suction, and this hasn't been sealed. So that's what we're going to do, scrape it round and then seal everything, and then we're going to start looking at getting this all plastered up today. Okay, so we have just done what I aforementioned. Now we're going to turn our minds to put some plaster on these walls. Now, do you know what? You might be tempted to knock up one big bucket and get this all on. But I think I'm going to do a bit of a linking gauge. I think I'm just going to knock up enough just to get this one wall on. Then I'm going to knock up again, maybe get the rest of this, split it up into two halves so you're not stressing. They're not in the greatest condition, and this is where some people kind of fall down in quality and everything, think, we'll just knock up, it's wasting time knocking up. But by knocking it up separately, at least the first coat, it kind of gives you a bit of a safety barrier. So we'll knock up, get this on, then I'll keep my eye on it, and I think, right, we can push forward and get that, then I can decide whether to, now I just need to lay it down, so I'll knock up and lay this down, but then knock up enough to push on a little bit further. just staying in control of it, just staying in that area of safety and getting on it and controlling and getting control of that wall whilst that plaster's wet, rather than starting here, getting all the way around to the end and then trying to flatten it and finding out where it's peaking up over here, and then you have to start straining and stuff. That's when you get wear and tear and fatigue, isn't it? So yeah, that's something you need to concern yourself with, your fatigue, you know, how hard, you know, you might want to try and consider working smarter, not harder, as they say. And especially at my age, at 51, smarter is definitely the better option for me, rather than harder. Did that. Right, let's go. Still very wet, which indicates that we did get a good amount of sealer on that, and it is doing its job. Although it's picking up, it's a little bit sporadic in places, but nothing we can't get over. We managed to get these reveals on, and we also used literally everything we can get out of that bucket. So we're going to mix up probably another bag and see if that gets us across here. So we've got this wall, this little side cheek, the little side cheek on the other side, and obviously this wall, and these reveals. If I can get it all done in the same sort of hit, and for the end of the day, just leaves this large wall. So there we go, this side is on. So we did exactly the same to this side. We put it on, turned around straight away, flattened it all in, around here. We've got all these reveals, and we managed to use all the plaster up again. We're getting rather good at guessing the amounts then. Right, so the next thing to do, I'm going to wash that bucket out completely and start back with clean water. Because I've kind of used dirty water to get this one on. And I'm going to probably just knock up enough to get this one. Second coat on this one. Yeah, let's see. That's how well I touched it earlier, look. So I touched it earlier and I got deep into it, but now look, this is what we're getting, so it's not coming off and sticking to my finger. See? Okay, right, let's do it. Okay, so we just put the second coat on here, and I'm turning straight back around with this smaller wet brush. Getting under control straight away before we do anything else. And so this little wet brush is really good for down architraves in internals. It's a substitute for the corner trowel. So at this moment we can use what we're taking off, fill any holes. Of course, working in a systematic way so as not to leave any trowel marks, and that's what this big trowel using this is wonderful for straightening out walls. Forces you to do them. So just if you don't know, put a slight little bit more pressure on the back, so we're creating a line there, okay, and that's what we're trying to work towards every time. Just smoothing it out. So we're working back to that all the time, chasing that little discrepancy. can see wires and stuff, always a lot of fun to get around. Okay, so that side's all flattened in and laid down, so now time to do exactly the same to this side. Okay, I've had to change the rules a little bit. I've literally just put this on, but we put it on quite tidy. What I did with that side is I put it on, then I turned straight back around and flattened it in. I can't do that with this. I've got to put it on nice and tidy. Then I've got to put my attention onto this because this is going to need the priority of getting this another trowel up on this before this gets flattened in. So that's going to have to wait a little bit. Let's get over there. Right, these things are a little bit of a pain. Like when they're going on board work such as this, look, they stick out quite a bit and they need dubbing out of this. You know, you can find them really easy. But over here, you know, because I've had to go over so deep, I'm starting to lose them. And, you know, unless you're up on it, look, I'm hoping as it sets, the discoloration will show them up. But I've, like, because obviously the way where they're on there, I've had to come deeper than what they are. Otherwise, that big 20 has made me come out further. I'm restricted. It's trying to restrict me. So I haven't got the freedom to come out with the depth because of those things if I want to try and keep hold of them. So the only thing I can do really is kind of remember where they are, and so then I can hear where they are, where it's gone hollow, and then I can give them a push. But you can see the depth I've had to come over that. I mean, they are a pain. I must admit, they do make things a little bit more complicated. It's handy, to be honest with you, that I'm actually recording this because when you start doubting yourself, you think, was there one now? I can't even remember now. And you've gone over it, and you're paying so much attention to these things that you're kind of neglecting your ability to get on with the larger areas and stuff. Yeah, I guess maybe it's just a bit of getting used to. I haven't seen these for 6 months, and that was this builder last time I worked for him. Otherwise, I don't ever see these things at all. So it's a little bit of getting used to it. But yeah, on those textured walls, they're a lot more difficult, or easier to lose. On these, they just stick out deeper than they need to be. On there, they're not out deep enough. So, when you got... If they didn't have the hole, if there wasn't filled in to keep the wires, there wouldn't be so much different. It'd be alright, but the fact that they've got that plate on there really makes it hard for them, makes it easy to lose them. So yeah, having the video, I can go back to the video and double check, make sure I haven't missed any. But yeah, they're not my favourite things to do. I think I found them all. Okay, so it's time to get this one wall on. We've got all that completed in there. So looking at it, it's fairly decent size, isn't it? Look out, I've got the stuff all in my way. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, although it's already quite flat, we're looking probably less than a couple of bags. I think I'm going to knock up closer to a couple of bags and more than anything else, because if I've got any left over, I can use that to lay down with. But a little bit of depth around the door frame. But let's pace this out. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 meters. And let's say that's 2.35, so we just times that by 2, so that's 14 meters, 14 square meters plus a bit more. One bag at its optimal depth should do 10 square meters, so we're definitely in the 2 bag area, aren't we? So yeah, it's at least a bag and a half. Might as well go 3/4, just like, if you want to do 2, you might be too much, but yeah, there's no depth to it at all, so we can go. I'm going to go just over 1.5 bags. Okay, let's see how we get on.
Okay, we're all on, and I've overcooked it a bit, look at that. It's got a bit left. Don't worry, I didn't mind overcooking it because I'm going to knock that back and put the second coat on. Sooner rather than later as well. Okay, the time is 10 minutes past 12 and we are on, laid down and flattened in. So all I can do now is wait for this to pick up. So it gives me a little bit of time to start getting tidied up in here, start getting tools out, etc. So yeah, let's do that. Bumbles are out in force again, doing their thing. All this lavender that I got down there, down this side. Really is quite a wonderful thing to witness, isn't it? Here we go, look. I had a feeling on this one. See the discoloration showing up now. Yeah, let's do it. Just mark it out, shall we? Pretty sure that's all of them. Oh, so we're all done in there. Feeling a little bit peckish actually. I might have a couple of these. It's part of my staple diet. Hi guys, welcome to my office, which is a bit of a mess at the moment, but you know, what can you do? I'm busy working, plastering and then editing videos amongst other household chores, and yeah, just not enough hours in the day, are there? Anyway, thanks so much for watching that video. It was a big one, wasn't it, in the end? It's what it is. I'm going to keep this really short and sweet, just like my father-in-law. If he is watching, he does watch sometimes. So yeah, like and subscribe, all that, and also there is a Facebook group called Plastering 74. If you want some more tuition or you want to give some advice or something like that, then please do come over there and yeah, be part of that community. And also as well, I just realised I've started a community on YouTube as well. I don't understand exactly what that means, but I'm sure I will find out in the near future. Alright guys, thanks for watching that video. I know it's a long one sitting through it. I try to make it a little bit entertaining with a few jokes, some Greek mythology, a little bit of nature, and some really nice music that I find on the YouTube audio library, which is copyright free, because you have to be careful with the copyright, don't you? Anyway, so yeah guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video, which is not so long away at all, probably in the next couple of days. Alright, see you then.